What's up, you guys? My name is Jerron Johnson. Welcome to my channel. And this is where we talk everything that is self-defense and martial arts, all right? So today, I'm gonna talk to you guys about two things. Number one, how to make a proper fist, because I see this all the time. And number two, the basics on how to throw a proper punch, all right? So first, we're gonna start off with our hands, all right? So I got my hands out here, and especially when you're teaching children, this is important to show them, all right? You've got a variety of knuckles here. So we got 1, 2, and then we got the big one here on the back, 3, all right? Now, you're slowly gonna collapse those in, starting with the 4 fingers. They should be pretty snug. We don't have to overly squeeze, but they should be snug. Then we're gonna take our thumb and firmly rest our thumb across our pointer and middle fingers, okay? Then as we raise our stance up, we're gonna relax them right here, just below the jaw. Now you're gonna see all kinds of variety of guards, and we'll talk about that in another video. But for right now, this is a good guard, okay? We're not overly squeezing, wasting energy. We're just kind of resting firm, and we have our wrist lined up. This is very important, the wrist. So again, as we go back here, the proper fist, we curl them in, we rest that thumb firmly. What I don't want to see is this, or this, or this, okay? This is the proper fist right here, okay? Raising up to a proper guard, your elbows are at a slant, and they're there to protect your ribs, okay? So that's a proper fist. Now as we step over here, got my kick shield up here, and I'm just gonna give you a quick basics on the proper punch. Okay, and this is punching in all aspects. We are not limiting this to the sport of boxing, all right? So if you can get my whole stance here, all right? Whether it be orthodox, whether it be southpaw, it doesn't matter, okay? So here we are. Elbows right here, lined up with the hip, here to protect your ribs, okay? And when we throw our first punch, we're gonna do a little tiny pivot here on this lead leg, just a small one. Boom. You will notice that there is a bend in my arm. We don't wanna do this. We'd never wanna hyperextend that joint. We've got our wrist nice and flush here and firm. We don't want this, okay? So the key is locking the wrist, keeping the elbow in line, a little bit of a pivot, giving you some hip power from the earth, and boom, okay? That's our jab. And again, it doesn't matter if we switch to our southpaw stance and we have our jab. Boom, okay? Now, while the target is always gonna be these bigger knuckles, there are varieties of punches in different systems that do vertical thrust punching. I don't wanna talk too much about that, but I'll give you an example. If you talk about Jeet Kune Do, you talk about Wing Chun. There is a vertical punch that leads with our smaller knuckles. All right? Now, one thing you'll notice about your hand is that you've got 5 bones, okay? So the hand is the accumulation of bones that we strike with, all right? There isn't really a hand per se as far as a bone is concerned. We've got a pinky bone, this bone here, middle finger bone. We've got our pointer finger bone, we've got a thumb bone. And they're all held together and weaved together with flesh and tendons. Now the bones are smaller on the smaller fingers, larger on the bigger fingers. If you grab your thumb or your pointer finger or your middle finger, you can feel bone almost instantly. But if you play around with your pinky, you get a little bit more flesh. This isn't always constant, everybody's body is different, but a little bit more flesh, unless you're grabbing knuckles. So we have smaller bones, but they have more flesh around them to protect them, okay? And the bigger bones have less flesh, okay? So this is what we got. Now, by doing the vertical punches and leading with that pinky, okay, we are using the smaller bones that are protected with a little bit more flesh, all right? But the key is, because we have a weaker bone, we're gonna strike a softer target, okay? So whatever it is you're hitting with, even with the bigger knuckles, we're not gonna punch somebody in the forehead, we're gonna try to avoid elbows, use whatever you've got against something that is weaker, all right? Very important. So, here we are, we got our jab with a little bit of a pivot, boom. And again, on making contact, there is a slight rotation, depending on our range. This is gonna show us, and again, our cross, what our rotation is gonna be, all right? Now, once you get too close, stop punching. This is what I see. We can always attack from outside, boom. And that's pretty much the stretch of my range. But if we're closer, there's only so much range we're gonna get out of our strike. Be mindful of your range, okay? Be mindful of that, all right? Always strike within your range, okay? Now, while you have those things to practice, the other thing that I want you to pay attention to, when you can no longer punch, like if I get in here, look at this. There's nothing here. When you can no longer punch, you stop punching, all right? And again, we'll cover that in another video, but once I can't punch anymore, I'm gonna grapple, I'm gonna elbow. When you cannot punch anymore, you either create space to where you can, or you stop altogether, all right? So your punching basics, respect your range, okay? Proper position of your hand, make sure you got that pivot, don't hyperextend your elbow at all. Touching on that, we can go into seeing, I don't know if you guys have paid attention, but there are a lot of fighters out there that shadow box like this. You guys ever seen this before? You know who does this a lot? Ronda Rousey does this a lot. Okay, no disrespect to Ronda, I know people love Ronda, but when you watch her shadow box, this full rotation, dude, never compromise the body, okay? By doing this full rotation, not only are we hyperextending the elbow, all right, locking it out, but we're rolling the shoulder in an unnatural position, okay? And we're turning our biggest muscle off, all right? I do it from this side so you can see. Got the elbow flared up, the bicep is completely turned off. Switch back, orthodox stance, here's the jab. Again, I've seen this so many times. We don't want to do this. You miss this kind of punch, you've compromised your entire arm, all the way up to your neck. Because you roll this shoulder forward, you've got your collarbone compromised, you got your neck compromised, everything is compromised here. All right? So look this, you can see the bicep is off. Now if we rewind this punch, okay, step in a little bit more, correct our range, bicep is active. But as soon as you rotate it, turns off. Go back to your thrust punches, like the Wing Chun style. Bicep is active, okay? So pay attention to the muscles of the body, be a little bit more scientific, and don't necessarily try to conform to the styles of a sport. Boxers do a lot of things that would be terrible for you to do on the street, okay? We'll cover that in another video, but just for now, I want you guys to practice making sure your range is correct, okay? Making sure there's a little bit of a bend in your elbow and making sure you have that little bit of a pivot, okay? And if you go back and you can see this rear pivot for our cross, this is the earth lending us power, okay? And of course, this is gonna exist in our other punches as well. This will exist in hooks. And I wanna cover hooks in a different video as well. But just touching on that, for the mechanics of the body, and as I turn towards you, you can see, right? Okay, this way, right? Right? Hands remaining up for defense. And again, if we're throwing hooks, we still got these elbows lined up, right? This is how you're doing this, okay? Okay? That's how you guys do punching basics, all right? So if this was helpful to you, please like, subscribe, share the video, okay? And stay tuned because more stuff is coming. Thank you.